Hi everyone, new journal today, journal 94. I promise I'll read it in a minute. We'll pull it up and read it together in just a minute. But I want to set it up first because I've been doing this like for kind of 94 journals worth of a long time. I've been doing this, but today is an anniversary because 4 years ago to the day, May 22nd, 2021, I posted my first one. I was doing it differently back then. I wasn't like narrating. I wasn't like pulling it up and like video, like recording myself reading it out loud. I was just posting these one-page PDFs on my website. And the journals themselves were a little bit different too because I haven't figured out what I was doing. I've been working on this book, The Crown and the Cage God, and I wanted to sort of chronicle the process and my thoughts about writing. And I was just gonna I'm gonna write about writing and just post it every once in a while. After 15, 20 journals, 25 journals, whatever, I started to figure out what my goal was in doing this process. But while reflecting on it in this moment of reflection about how long I've been writing these journals, and mostly how long I've been writing this forever. And so while reflecting about ever and the duration that I've been evering, a friend wrote and said, "You look like the Hillsong guy." And like, I don't know what a Hillsong is. And so she clarified, like, it's a band and there's a lead singer and you look like the lead singer of that band. And so I looked up the band and I felt complimented. I mean, he's obviously a better singer than I am and like a way better shaver than me. But there was and I would like to think I couldn't, experience an uplifting feeling. I couldn't appreciate the compliment because no part of my identity is vanity. I'm not connected to my appearance. That's what I would like to think. But evidence says otherwise. I want to say my identity is my writing and my voice. It's my contribution to my, community and sort of family, my wife, my family. I would like to think that's 100% of my identity. But the fact that I felt complimented means the vanity plays into it. But I only felt good. I only felt sort of uplifted for like 20 seconds. And then I had this epiphany, which worked as like an enzyme that catalyzed this reaction where I sort of like fermented my, uplifting feeling into this sour, maybe like somber or something, a little bit of sad. Okay, so I realized, it'll be easier if I just tell the story. I realized in that moment that it had been a really long time since anyone compared me to someone else, to some sort of celebrity in a complimentary way. And it used to happen all the time. I mean, there's one person I would always be compared to. This was like a dozen years ago. And I mean, I'm in the grocery store and strangers point and tell me who I look like. I'm just whatever, I'm shopping, I'm on the sidewalk, I'm whatever. And the first time though, I remember it well, there are two people. And I'm at a hotel. I think I'm on the East Coast. I'm at a professional conference. It's out of Rhode Island or something. And I'm in my hotel and I'm walking down the hallway to my room. It's at the end of the day. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm by myself. And I'm walking down the hallway and these two people pass me and one of them points like right in my face and says, "The serial killer." And like, I'm worried, and I should be. I have reason to be concerned, and I'm feeling every bit of that concern. And then, but only for like 1 second, because he remembers the guy's name. He's like, "Dexter, yeah, you look just like Dexter." And so my panic sort of washes away. I'm like, "Thank you," and I felt the thank you as some sort of little vanity or whatever. Michael C. Hall, I think, is the actor, and like he's a good-looking guy. And 12 years ago, I really did look like him. It was in my nose, in my brow. I had a lot more hair back then, and I'm thinking like my face wasn't like hollowed out by the stresses of life, that have in those 12 years. And I was a cleaner shaver. I was like Hillsong. I wasn't Hillsong clean, but I was close. I was a much better shaver back then. And so I really did look like him. And it happens so regularly. They're like, "Oh, the serial killer." I didn't need the qualifier anymore. The serial killer, while pointing at my chest or face or something, was sufficient for me to feel complimented. But then it stopped happening as regularly. And then it stopped happening at all, ever. It just never happened again. And it didn't occur to me that it had never happened. In like 8 years, it hadn't happened a single time until "You look like the Hillsong guy." And so that's where I kind of quickly went down that slope into something that didn't feel as positive. But the slope is actually a little bit steeper, because then my secondary epiphany was that I am aging faster than civilization is, or culture is, or whatever. Like the world is spinning this fast, and I'm like, because Everyone watching knows the reference. Everyone watching knows what Dexter is and who Dexter, what he looks like, but no one watching would point and say the serial killer at me. So I seem to be you're just spinning faster than culture is, aging faster. And so with that in mind, with this sort of reflective, mentality that's a little bit sad, I decided I'm going to write this as my journal entry. This is going to be journal entry number 94. I'll post it on my anniversary and I will tell this story. And then I sat down to write the story and I realized it doesn't actually work as a journal. If this were journal 1, 5, 10 or whatever, before I just sort of figured out what I'm doing in this series, I would have just told this story on the page. But I decided to go in a different direction. And I would just orally, do this with the story and use that as the inspiration to write my journal, which is about who my target audience is. Who are you writing this book for? And this one, right? Who's my target audience? I've tried to answer this question in the past, like journal 39, if you pull up that one, but I just ended up talking about cats the whole time and I didn't do a very good job. So I'm going to try a better job. I'm going to take another stab at it here. Let me pull that journal up. Okay, journal 94, Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, Huddled, Homesick Masses. Hi, everyone. Over the years, innumerable people have inquired about my book, asking, who is your target audience? And I've tested a lot of answers, but like trying on shirts in a fitting room, the mirror always reveals a fault. Some answers are too baggy and inclusive, others are too tight and restrictive, the worst ones are too fashionable. So I've never worn the same response twice. Today, I'm trying on a new one and parading it in front of the mirror, i.e. a public journal entry. Who is my target audience, you ask? People like me. Who are people like me, you ask? Those who feel the constant sting of a lack of belonging. Homesickness of a kind, but not for any specific destination. Instead, it's felt for a time. How the world used to be before the meta-rapture zapped up the bulk of humanity to live out their lives in an all-digital, none-too-heavenly meta-realm. And those of us who are left behind, i.e. people like me, wander the analog desert longing for yesterday's world, where people engaged with people and reality was largely real. I think most of us born in the 80s or before have a similar outlook. Our brains developed on diets of real human relationships and real live experiences, and none of it was recorded and posted in vast museums of human sadness, e.g. Facebook, Instagram, etc. So we couldn't look back on it. So we had to make the most of the time at the time. Today, what constitutes an experience or a relationship is different. From a neural sustenance perspective, it seems less nourishing. And the adage, you are what you eat, seems as true as ever. Accordingly, the values I see represented in the museums of sadness would be unrecognizable to the inhabitants of a younger world. As values are the basis of culture, and cultures didn't cease warring on account of the internet, it is now clear that a winner is emerging. One culture's campaign has put both Napoleon and Genghis to shame, and it is not mine. The analog kingdom recedes a little more every day. Sometimes a prominent empire will topple, e.g. Blockbuster, but it's the little losses to our communication and communities that matter most. It's the gradual estranging of our neighbors, the silencing of our living room sofas, the outsourcing of correspondence to our thumbs, the de-childrening of cul-de-sac streets, and the limiting of pew seating to people with arthritic hips. Every day, social media annexes more and more from less and less. We all assimilate. No grandma has failed to respond to her meta summons, but our conformity does not extinguish the feeling of homesickness. So, who is my target audience, you ask? People like me. Who are people like me, you ask? The homesick, the anachronistic, the huddled masses yearning to read paper books. okay, that's journal entry number 94. And at the end, I'm like assuming everybody got the reference, right? That was the Statue of Liberty. Give us your poor and tired and the huddled masses, like breathing free air stuff, which feels like it's written about me and people like me. Like the tired doesn't even get the exhaustion. Tired doesn't get at it. That's why I can like barely shave. I just don't have the energy. And like, I'm not poor. I live in it's a small house, but it's nice and it's in a nice neighborhood. But like I rent and I don't accumulate wealth. I'm not like saving up. every would-be savings penny goes into medical debt. And then the breathe free air stuff, the huddled masses, I'm not huddling with them. In a contemporary, version of that, in interpretation, I would say let's get away from screens, like breathing free air. Let's get away from those museums of sadness, those social media museums, and just breathe like polluted air outside and with communities. And so that's what the ending was about. And then before the ending, when I was talking about culture, I just can't believe I have to say this, but I feel compelled to have some little qualifier here. Obviously, I'm not talking about race, obviously, or ethnicity or anything like that. It would take something at least Napoleonic, if not more warmongerish than that, to insert that intention or sort of concoct that narrative. But I realize that I don't control who watches this. And so just as many inhabitants of like Meta Hades can watch this video as people who are sort of in my coterie, who get it, who are, empathetic and compassionate, sympathetic, whatever, all those like related terms. And so I just feel like that qualifier is somehow necessary. What I'm talking about, though, when I say like culture, is age. Being alive before the internet, so really not the internet, but social media, and the sort of the monster the internet became. Being alive before that, it just felt like a more humane world. Everyone my age and older knows exactly what I'm talking about. I talked about Blockbuster in the journal. Never once did I go to Blockbuster by myself. I went all the time. It's Fridays or Saturdays, something like that. We would go to Blockbuster, but it's like roommates and friends. It's family, and the outing to Block. Maybe we stop by Figaro's and get a pizza or something like that on the way. But the outing took longer than the movie did, and it was just as rewarding as the movie. I remember the outings more than the movies, the rental process more than the movies themselves. And we bring the movie home and sit on the sofa and watch, and the conversation continues. Maybe it's like, shh, this part's important. But for the most part, the conversation continues, and the couch is not a lonely, isolated place. Or like with video games, it's even more. All of my best conversations as a kid, we're talking like 10, 12, 15 years of this, I had a controller in my, especially the Nintendo 64 days, where there's 4 people on the couch. Maybe one person's like sitting cross-legged on the floor because the couch only holds 3 or something. But it's that, couch co-op, maybe it's couch competition, and we're like talking trash to each other, but we're practically having like anoxic injuries from all the laughter and the inability to breathe, the conversation and the laughter, and we're barely breathing, and this goes on for 6 hours. And those, or like even the streets, I look out the window and all I ever see is leaf blowers and cars. I don't see community. And maybe community is the same as it ever was, and I just see it differently. But I think everyone my age has similar eyesight. We see the world. You know what I'm talking about. And so that's what this journal, okay, here comes something weird. I'm almost envious of people, maybe you feel the same way, and I've just never heard anyone voice this, but I'm almost envious of people who departed the world a bunch of spins ago. Before the world sort of went nuts or changed in a way that I see as a contamination. So thinking like in music, the Kurt Cobain, I'm not envious of a truncated life, so don't take this to mean more than I intended to. But like Kurt Cobain, when he left music, that's what I personally, emotionally, opinionatedly would consider the peak of music, the most emotional. It has so much heart. Go to a concert in the 90s and, I could do without the mosh pits. I would leave bruised, but the heart and the emotion, the community, it was so overwhelming, these things. And, the skill, and there's no auto-tune, and this is all real. It was so real and so just filled with humanity. And like Kurt Cobain, I don't know what was going on in his mind when he left the world. Probably something not that happy, but what he was looking at and what he was hearing in music. Let's change it to like Walter Cronkite. and the news, because I never talk about the news, because why would I? But like the Walter Cronkites of the world left sort of before political discourse lost like the last shred of integrity. And that's sort of what I envy of seeing the world in a more positive light. And again, maybe it was always crazy, but you just didn't see the craziness lining the highways and like shoved in your face all the time. It felt like freer air that we were breathing. Maybe it was always this polluted, but you just didn't see it. Okay, that's who I'm writing my book for. It's people like me who long for the 90s music, emotional humanity. And I hope that your community is filled with that free air, and it's filled with the heart, whether it's in music, whether it's when you're watching movies, whatever it is. I hope those communities have every bit as much compassion and intensity and anoxic injuries from ongoing conversation and laughter as I once saw sort of all over the place. I hope that place inhabits your life. Okay, that's Journal 94. I'll see you next time.